that Smile Direct Club filed bankruptcy. I believe it was Chapter 11. Of course, this is a restructuring. It's not what everyone would like to see yet, but it definitely is a restructuring of finances and a strategic move to clean the slate a bit so that they can move some debt around. So the company has no indication of shutting down anytime soon. In fact, the founders have given it a $20 million capital injection to hold it over while it's in the bankruptcy period, to make sure that it continues to service the patients that it has and the 110 locations throughout the U.S. of scanning centers that they have for folks to do at-home orthodontics. So that is that. What will come of it, you never really know. And
Let's
of course,
just see what the legal world has to say,
yeah,
because I myself have witnessed many cases that have ended up with legal action, and absolutely with cause.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
We talked a lot not last week about on September 29th, Smile Direct Club filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A lot of murmurs going on about will this be the end of Smile Direct Club? And there were some pros and cons being expressed on different open platforms. Well, we're getting a little bit more clarity this week on what this really means. Of course, we talked last week about this being a restructuring of debt and that the founders have injected another $20 million in capital investment to try to find a new buyer for the group. That's right. So NASDAQ has actually delisted the stock and removed it from the exchange. So currently, stocks are not being able to be bought or sold. This is part of some of the SEC filings that they put together in conjunction with their bankruptcy filing last week. It looks like Smile Direct Club is on the market for a new owner, and the investors have put money in to carry it through until it can find a new owner or a new investor. If by November 23rd, they have not found a new investor or able to close on an acquisition deal, then they will probably be moving forward with a liquidation event. So I think we'll all be watching this pretty closely. This would be the first major DIY application that was available to the general marketplace for at-home dental procedures. And I do think it will be really interesting to then see what the ripple effect will be for some of these other companies, as we discussed this weekend with the Snap-on Smiles, the at-home denture processors that are now starting to pop up, and the other DIY orthodontic companies that are doing it, quote unquote, with some minimal supervision. So this, is definitely something both to be watching from an investor and from someone who kind of follows the stock market a bit. It could be an indication of economic changes in the landscape that's happening there. But as a dentist, it's definitely interesting to see what the DIY marketplace may be reflecting and what the demand and acceptance and tolerance for those services will be. So we'll continue to watch that. Sounds like November 23rd is going to be the big date for Smile Direct Club to get it together. We've been reporting on this story for the last couple of months. Let's go back to Smile Direct Club, if we shall. Remember, it was just a few months ago that they filed for a voluntary bankruptcy, and they've been trying to drum up enough funding to keep this puppy rolling. They've also had it on the market for purchase, and to date, there is no new buyer. So the deadline was November 23rd, and we have no buyer on the docket. So they're back to the drawing board about looking for funding. The founders are willing to throw in additional funding to clear some of the debt and also re-inject capital for 100% retake of the company. So it'll be interesting to see what the investors will do with this particular offer. Remember, the founders had also injected $20 million of capital just a few months ago to keep it afloat while it was looking for a buyer or trying to figure out next steps through this voluntary bankruptcy process. And now here we are at the end of that deadline, and they are offering to basically take back the company for about a $50 million investment. So we'll see if that is enough for the investors to kind of wipe their hands clean of the company. And also super interesting to see what the founders may have in store for the company to re-energize it and keep it going. They still do have active patients and are still managing patient care indirectly. So we'll see how that shakes out. If you've been living under a rock for the last 5 days, then might I be the first to let you know that Smile Direct Club has ceased operations and is no longer taking care of patients. I think the biggest challenge that's coming from this, and certainly as clinicians, because if we're being very honest about how dentists felt about Smile Direct Club, I don't think it was a very loving relationship. I think we've always struggled with the concept that consumers could get high quality dental care from someone who's never met them, has no real diagnosis of their oral condition, doesn't really understand or know the nuances of the patient's oral health, and yet could provide predictable quality orthodontic care. And so, in full disclosure, I think most dentists were really always very uncomfortable with the business model. And in general, with direct to consumer dental products like Snap-on veneers, and now you can do your own scan impressions for dentures, et cetera. I think there's a lot of nuances in that particular business model. That being said, we are still very sympathetic to the fact that there are patients out there who were in active care to the tune of a couple million, I think, at this point, who no longer have care, to no longer have a company that they can reach out to or provide further guidance. Certainly, no additional aligners will be shipped to them. They are expected, however, to pay in full if they were afforded some type of payment structure for their care, but no support on the back end. So I think we're finding a lot of patients are sort of in this limbo of what they do now. I have seen, I know Align is starting to offer some help to clinicians. So if you do find yourself with patients who are coming in the front door with Smile Direct cases mid treatment, or they're unsure where they go from here and need some advice or help, I know Align in particular is providing support for that, but I'm sure other aligner companies are considering the same. So be sure that if you are a clear aligner provider and you do provide that service in your practice, that you reach out to the companies that you work with to see if they're providing any financial help, so that you can then, extend that to Smile Direct Club patients to hopefully at least get them to a healthy and happy place, which was ultimately what they were seeking to begin with. So we're continuing to watch the story develop, but certainly that is an unfortunate situation that most of those patients are finding themselves into. We did talk about this last week. The founders were looking for that last Hail Mary, but it would appear that the board did not approve their request to go ahead and just buy or acquire the company outright. Somehow I have a feeling we're not done yet. Just call me a 10 full hat wearing cynicist. But somehow I feel like this might be some restructuring behind the scenes that we may not all really fully appreciate, but that will be determined. I did happen to see today that another aligner company that has kind of a modified model is now doing a little bit more shipment to direct to consumer. I don't think they're doing direct to consumer treatment yet, but they are sort of picking up maybe where SDC left off. So we'll see.